The saloon was the heart of the small town, a lively place where stories were spun over mugs of frothy beer and the clink of coins echoed amid laughter. Sunlight poured through the dusty windows, casting warm rays on the wooden floor, where couples danced and friends chatted. Outside, horses were tied up, waiting patiently for their owners to return from a game or a drink. Inside the saloon, a large table sat in the middle, surrounded by rugged cowboys with worn hats and weathered faces. They focused intently on their cards, the stakes rising with every deal. Squeezed between the patrons could be heard the soft strumming of a guitar played by a local musician. His tunes blended with daunting tales shared by an old-timer in the corner, captivating anyone who dared to listen. An air of excitement filled the atmosphere as whispers about large wins stirred in hushed tones. People leaned in closer to take part in the action literally unfolding before their eyes. The aroma of whiskey and leather wafted through the air, mingling with the exuberant cheers and playful jests that permeated every corner. As more players joined in on this game of chance, anticipation crackled like static electricity. Little did they know that among them lurked a card cheat, ready to turn this evening into something far more unforgettable than they could imagine. As the lively atmosphere thrummed with excitement, the characters at the saloon began to take shape. At the center table, there was Buck, a burly cowboy with a bushy beard and a heart as big as his laugh. His friends, Slim and Gus, were equally rugged but brought different flavors to the table. Slim's quick wit often kept spirits high, while Gus had a knack for reading people, making him wary of newcomers. Across from them sat the mysterious card cheat, known only as Whispers, dressed in a dark coat and a wide-brimmed hat that shadowed their face. Whispers wore an easy smile that could charm anyone. But beneath that calm exterior lay a sly mind ready to deceive. They shuffled cards with practiced ease, glancing around the table with an air of confidence that made others uneasy. Keeping a watchful eye on the card game was Sheriff Collins, a seasoned lawman whose reputation for fairness preceded him. With his sharp gaze and a badge shining under the dim lights, he embodied authority without needing to speak. The sheriff understood the complexities of human nature and knew that this night could unfold in many unpredictable ways. As laughter echoed through the saloon, these characters stood on the brink of an unforgettable encounter, one that would test their wits and reveal true natures in the ever-turbulent world of chance. As the evening deepened, the sound of laughter gave way to the focused chatter of gamers, ready to stake their fortunes. Buck leaned over the table, shuffling his cards with anticipation as Slim and Gus exchanged playful jabs about who would come out on top. The saloon's atmosphere shifted, charged with a mix of excitement and nervousness as bets began to be placed. Buckets of coins clinked together as players piled their stakes in front of each other, creating a small mountain of hopes and dreams. "Let's see who's got the best hand tonight," Buck exclaimed, grinning widely. The challenge invigorated everyone around. Their eyes sparkled with determination as they prepared for serious business. Whispers, seated at the far end of the table, held their cards close, exuding confidence. With each secretive glance around the room, they sensed the rising tension. The dim light flickered overhead, adding a hint of drama to the mix. As the dealer shuffled and dealt, hearts raced in anticipation of what each round would bring. Players leaned in closer, breaths bated, eager to uncover fortune or face disappointment. Sheriff Collins stood nearby, his gaze steady but watchful, ready to act if anything went awry. With every flip of a card, the excitement swelled. Little did they know that this simple game held far more than just money at stake. As the game progressed, Whispers began to show their true skills, expertly weaving through the tension of the table. With a calm demeanor, they shuffled the cards and deftly palmed an ace when no one was looking, sliding it discreetly into their hand. To the casual observer, it appeared as though they were merely mixing the deck, but in reality, they had already given themselves an unfair advantage. Glancing slyly at their accomplice, who sat at a nearby table nursing a drink, Whispers subtly signaled with a flick of their finger. It was a simple gesture but meant everything. It indicated which players were holding strong hands and which were ripe for deception. The accomplice quietly adjusted their position, leaning closer to catch glimpses of the other player's cards while pretending to be engrossed in their own game. As Buck placed his bets with enthusiasm, he remained blissfully unaware of the trickery unfolding right under his nose. Slim and Gus exchanged glances but couldn't quite pin down what felt off about the game. Each time Whispers won a hand, they flashed an easy smile, pretending they were just lucky. With Sheriff Collins stationed nearby, suspicions brewed in the air, a storm waiting to break. Little did Whispers know that their cunning tactics might soon come crashing down around them as the stakes grew higher. As the game progressed, an undeniable shift settled over the saloon. Buck, Slim, and Gus began to share uneasy glances as Whispers continued to win hand after hand with startling ease. Each win raised the stakes, but it also raised their suspicions. With every coin tossed into the pot, the atmosphere thickened, and a low murmur of whispers started to ripple among the players. "Have you noticed how that one always seems to have the winning cards?" Slim remarked quietly, glancing at Whispers. "Something doesn't feel right about this." "I'm thinking the same thing," Gus replied, leaning in closer. "Winning like that? It's like they know what everyone else is holding." Across the table, Buck's brow furrowed as he studied Whispers, who flashed another charming smile after raking in another pile of coins. "Maybe we're just getting unlucky," he said, attempting a hopeful tone, but his voice lacked conviction. While Sheriff Collins remained vigilant nearby, observing the unease among the players, he noticed the shift in their demeanor, a blend of tension and growing apprehension. The whispers grew louder, filled with doubt and distrust. As Whispers continued to manipulate the game without a care in the world, the seeds of suspicion were firmly planted, threatening to uproot their evening's entertainment with looming confrontation. The whispers in the saloon reached a crescendo as Sheriff Collins, sensing the tension at the card table, decided it was time to intervene. With a firm stride, he approached the group, his eyes narrowing as he took in the scene. The players fell silent, their nervous glances shifting between each other and Whispers, who sat confidently with a smirk plastered across their face. "Evening, gentlemen," the sheriff said, his voice steady but authoritative. "I've heard some chatter about unusual luck surrounding this game." He focused intently on Whispers, whose relaxed posture seemed out of place amidst the rising accusations. Buck cleared his throat first, still trying to shake off his uncertainty. "We're just playing cards, Sheriff. Nothing funny going on here." Sheriff Collins raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that? Winning 5 hands in a row is unusual for anyone." He leaned closer, scrutinizing Whispers with a piercing gaze. "I'll need to see those cards, if you don't mind." Undeterred, Whispers tilted their heads slightly and replied with a laugh. "Why would I need to prove anything? Luck's just on my side tonight." Their bravado only fueled the sheriff's suspicion. As Collins began his questioning, the tension in the saloon thickened. The other players exchanged quick looks filled with uncertainty. Everyone sensed that this game had just turned into something much more serious, and the atmosphere crackled with anticipation and unease. As Sheriff Collins pressed Whispers for answers, the tension in the saloon reached a breaking point. To everyone's surprise, instead of showing fear or defensiveness, Whispers burst into laughter. It was a sound that rang out like a bell, echoing through the dimly lit room and momentarily halting all conversation. "Is this what you call law enforcement?" Whispers chuckled, wiping a tear of mirth from their eye. "You think I'm cheating? Oh, what a delightful accusation." The smirk on their face only deepened as they leaned back in their chair, clearly unfazed by the sheriff's scrutiny. The other players exchanged bewildered glances, unsure how to react to the sudden shift in mood. Buck furrowed his brow, Slim's mouth fell slightly open in disbelief, and Gus simply shook his head. Whispers' laughter seemed to mock the seriousness of the situation, and it baffled everyone watching. Sheriff Collins narrowed his eyes, not appreciating the cavalier attitude. "This isn't a laughing matter," he replied firmly. But Whispers merely continued to chuckle, leaning forward as if sharing an inside joke. With each laugh from Whispers, the tension morphed into confusion among the players. They found themselves torn between amusement at the audacity of the cheat and concern over how this confrontation would unfold. The evening had taken an unexpected turn, one that promised to be anything but ordinary. The laughter that had filled the saloon suddenly faded, replaced by an uneasy silence as the tension became tangible. Sheriff Collins, glaring at Whispers with a mix of frustration and determination, felt the atmosphere shift once more. This was no longer just a card game. It was a powder keg waiting to explode. Buck, Slim, and Gus exchanged urgent glances, their hands instinctively inching toward the handles of their holstered guns. The rest of the patrons watched in breathless anticipation, aware that things might soon turn violent. Whispers, however, maintained an air of nonchalance, leaning back in their chair with a smirk, which only fueled the rising anger among the players. "Is this how you treat a friendly game?" Whispers taunted, their voice dripping with sarcasm as they glanced at Buck. "Come on now, where's your sense of humor?" With hearts pounding and adrenaline surging through their veins, Buck finally broke the standoff. "You're pushing your luck too far," he warned, his hand clutching his pistol tightly. "Maybe it's time we settled this," Slim added grimly, ready for whatever might come next. As fingers brushed gun grips and breaths were held in anticipation, Sheriff Collins stepped forward, demanding calm but knowing he was walking a tightrope. With all eyes locked on Whispers, caught between bravado and the reality of impending danger, the saloon seemed poised on the brink of chaos. In the tense silence, Whispers suddenly leaned forward, their smirk never fading. "You all think I'm cheating? Well, let me enlighten you," they said, a twinkle in their eye. "My secret weapon isn't sleight of hand or fancy signals. It's simply my charm." The players exchanged bewildered glances, unsure of where this was going. Whispers continued, "You see, it's not about the cards. It's about the people. I get inside their heads, knowing just when to bluff and when to win." With a theatrical flair, they gestured around the table. "Most folks can't resist revealing a bit too much when they think they're on the winning side." Receiving a few confused chuckles from Buck and Slim, Whispers pressed on. "But here's the real kicker. I once faced off against a notorious outlaw known for his poker face. I told him my grandmother taught me these tricks. He laughed and lost his entire stake on a wild bet. So you see," they threw their hands up in mock exasperation, "it's just family tradition." As laughter bubbled up nervously around the table, even Sheriff Collins found it hard to maintain his stern demeanor. The tension shifted slightly, caught between Whispers' unexpected humor and the reality of the situation at hand. In that moment, with spirits raised just a little, it became clear that perhaps there was more to this game than mere cards, and everyone relaxed just a bit before the storm ahead. As the laughter finally settled, Sheriff Collins took a deep breath, weighing the situation. "Well, Whispers," he said, his voice steady but tinged with humor. "You've certainly entertained us tonight, but charm and tales won't cut it when it comes to cheating at cards." The sheriff stepped closer, his expression serious once more. Whispers raised an eyebrow, still grinning. "Oh, come on, Sheriff. You can't be serious about throwing me out over a little fun." Collins shook his head. "You've disrupted not just this game but the whole saloon spirit. However," he paused for effect, "I have a mind to give you one last chance." He turned to Buck, Slim, and Gus. "What do you say? Should we teach this cheat a lesson in good old-fashioned justice?" The three cowboys exchanged glances before Slim chuckled. "How about we let them play one last hand? If they win, they get to walk free. If they lose, they take their leave without causing any more trouble." Whispers leaned back in their chair and laughed heartily. "Now that's a wager worth making." With the stakes set anew and tension replaced by a sense of camaraderie, the players gathered around once more. As cards were dealt for what would be the final hand of the night, everyone felt that regardless of the outcome, justice had been served, with just enough humor to keep the spirit of the saloon alive. As the final hand unfolded, a sense of camaraderie emerged among the players, each of them aware that the evening had been more than just about cards. It was a revelation of character and integrity. Sheriff Collins watched closely, reflecting on how important honesty is in not just games but in life itself. When Whispers played with charm instead of deceit, They reminded everyone that while winning might feel good momentarily, true victory lies in playing fair and respecting one another. The stakes, though high, were ultimately about trust and the spirit of the game. After whispers either won or lost, the sheriff addressed everyone present. In a world where cheating might bring quick rewards, he said, it's our commitment to fair play that builds lasting friendships and earns respect. The crowd murmured in agreement, with Buck and Slim nodding in thoughtful reflection. As laughter resumed and spirits lifted again inside the saloon, it became evident that regardless of who walked away with the winnings that night, everyone had gained something far greater, an understanding of accountability and honor at the card table and beyond. In that moment, under the flickering lights of the saloon, it was clear. Playing fair enriches us all, reminding us that some lessons are worth far more than any pot of gold.